now begin the January Progressive Forum. Chile, will neoliberalism's birthplace be its grave? The significance of Gabriel Boric's presidential victory, from the streets to the Constituent Assembly. My name is Zoe Youngmi Blank. I'm with the International Strategy Center here in Korea, and I'll be your MC for today. Exactly 12 hours behind Korea, over in Chile, some very exciting things are taking place. In 2019, transit fare increases sparked protests that expanded into larger fights against corruption, privatization, and social inequality. Emerging from those protests came a referendum vote, which 78% voted to approve rewriting Chile's constitution, a constitution that was written in 1980 by members handpicked by the Pinochet dictatorship at the time. So this constitution is significant because it had a lot of neoliberal reforms that gutted Chile's public sector while cementing a rule by a political economic elite. 40 years of struggle under that constitution culminated into these protests and a referendum victory. And now, a completely unique Constituent Assembly. This is a beautiful example of how social movements drive historical change. And us as members of the international community, we are witnessing this in solidarity. So we are excited to bring you today's guests who will take us deeper into what it's actually like being in that Constituent Assembly, as well as in Chile's grassroots, social, and political spheres. Just a brief introduction of the ISC Progressive Forum series. We put on a forum every month, not just to learn about social movements around the world, but to build power through connection, solidarity, and exchange between people, between local movements, between global movements. So the people running this event behind the scenes are activists, organizers, politicians, translators, students, and professors. And when not running these forums, we do policy research, translation, we do study groups, and participate in direct actions as well. Together, we struggle for a future that places people over profits, that grants self-determination to oppressed groups, and that encourages thriving participatory democracy, like we are seeing evolve in Chile right now. Co-hosting the event today is the International Progressive Politics Forum of the Justice Party in Korea. So thank you for joining us. And today we will have a video clip pre-recorded by a member of the Constituent Assembly in Chile, Barbara Sepulveda's Hales, constitutional lawyer, politician, and a deputy vice president of the Chilean Constitutional Convention. And exciting, our special guest today in attendance is Taroa Zuniga Silva. I hope I'm pronouncing the names correctly. She writes for Globetrotter and is the co-editor of Venezuela, Vortex of the War of the 21st Century. She is part of the coordinating committee of Argos, Observatory for Migration and Human Rights, and co-founder of Venezuelan Faldas Are, the collective for women's sexual and reproductive rights. So I'm excited to pass on the microphone to Taehan Song, who will be interviewing Taroa.
Hello, my name is Taehan Song. And before showing some clips from our pre-recorded interview with Barbara Sepulveda Hales and interviewing Taroa Silva, who is with us today, I wanted to give you a brief historical background to the events that are unfolding today in Chile. So from 1973 to 1990, Chile was under the Pinochet dictatorship. From 1990 to 2010, it underwent a negotiated democratic transition In 2010, a conservative, Sebastián Piñera, was once again elected president. And in accordance with Chile's non-sequential two-term limit, Piñera skipped a term and was re-elected in 2018. During his first term in 2011, student protests broke out around reforms for greater access to education. In 2016, protests broke out around pensions. In 2018, feminist protests broke out fighting machismo culture. In 2019, protests triggered by transit fare increases demanded an end to corruption, privatization, and social inequity. And of course, the 2019 protests led to a referendum in which, as Zoe mentioned, 78% of voters approved rewriting the 1980 Pinochet-era constitution, thus initiating a Constituent Assembly process. Most recently, one of the student leaders of the 2011 student protest, Gabriel Boric, was elected president as the candidate for a broad coalition of left parties and movements. To explore the Constituent Assembly, we will first play a pre-recorded interview with Deputy Vice President of the Constituent Assembly, Barbara Sepulveda Hales.
In 2018, here in Chile, we had a very, very big feminist movement protests. And that also it's a very interesting part of the analysis, because we have now the first Constitutional Assembly that it achieved parity around the world. So for us, that for me, especially as a feminist, I believe that is something that you have to take into account when you go through all the different movements. And I agree, probably the students' protests in 2011 were the biggest protest we had since the dictatorship. But now, and in the last 4 years, we've been having a lot of different movements protesting on the streets. So that's all, of course, it's linked to the Constitution. So what happens here in Chile is that we've had different governments, since 1990, but all those governments are trapped in these rules that they cannot change. So it's very hard for the democracy to manifest. So people are very tired of voting every 4 years and seeing that things don't change in their lives. I think now what we are doing in the constituent process is that we know we have to left behind this neoliberal system that it's very intertwined with our institutions, with our democracy, with the institutional design of Chile. That is very hard to do because we have a neoliberal market rationality that it's always there. It's been more than 30 years of neoliberal rationality here in Chile. So individualism and all these behaviors that we observe in our population, it's mainly we have this constitutional, of course, this constitutional change coming, but we also need a cultural change because people are used to think only for themselves and for their families, and just it's a very sad consequence of the neoliberal system, and you can see that. So I think the protests also change a little bit. They made a cultural change, a small one, but it's a change. That maybe solidarity in these times, it's the way to go. So the state should provide. So the state should intervene. So not everything is my personal achievements. Maybe we can see each other differently and build communities, and that's something that is still going on. So we have a lot of cultural changes that are I don't know, it's because of the protests, the social movements. So we're now like in a very weird position of political change here in Chile, and we can see like this old politics just leaving, and this new politics that are arriving. And it's very weird that like the way they're both are just coexisting, and especially in the Constituent Assembly. I believe we have first, because of the social demands and the social movements, we need to address social rights. But we have to go from this neoliberal state that we call subsidiary state, that just focuses public policies and just provide for a very, very small part of the population, and just go through a wealth state that of course has to also redistribute wealth. We need to do that from a constitution, because now the constitution, it's the first and the main obstacle to do all those things. So for us, just changing the role and the character of the state, it's one of the main goals. So how we can go from this neoliberal system through a social democratic state of well-being. And for that, we need to have social rights and guarantees. We're building another constitution that has the people's well-being on the center, but also we have here, and probably around the world, this very big challenge about going through a new development in countries, new models of development that also can respect and protect nature, the environmental articles of our constitution are going to be some of the main points, especially because, well, you know, Chile has a lot of resources, but because of the neoliberal system, we just destroyed a lot of ecosystems. A lot of regions of our country are now without water, very polluted. And that is just because we thought about just growing economically, but without consequences, just not thinking about the consequences. So that is going to be very hard as well, because we need a bigger state and we need more resources because all of these social rights need to be funded. And we have a lot of minerals. We have lithium, we have copper, but also we cannot depend on this extractivist model because it's very harmful to the environment. And also it's killing a lot of parts of our population. Also gender, it's for us one of the main challenges in this constitution, because we know we are the first Constitutional Assembly that has 50% of women, 50% of men. And that for us is a challenge, because it cannot be just numbers. So we need to do something with it. So for us, we're trying to build the feminist constitution, the first feminist constitution, and that goes through principles, values, rights, social rights, but also into the institutional design, because it's always more than rights for gender. And so we're talking about political representation, political participation, trying to build a different kind of democracy. So we're trying to build more mechanisms of direct democracy and put them on the constitution. So more referendums and more of mechanisms that it could lead to local power, and not just kept it centered in these few people. So for us, those are main points, and especially, I think, especially social rights, because it's been a very hard 30 years. Probably we're gonna see sexual and reproductive rights with a majority of support. I hope so. And also probably we're gonna have a lot of agreement in kind of those issues, but also environmental issues and the design. I think that it's not only the political institutions and the political system design that it's going to be it's going to be a very hard issue to address, and probably we're not going to get all the votes and stuff. I think are the details about how this institutional design has led to a specific economic model system. That is something that the Constitution do. This actual Constitution does that. It allows to free market and liberal economic rights, and it has this very long provision about private property, and you know, it's a very economical view of liberalism. So I'm not sure about these progressive issues to be just so easily to obtain now in this constitutional process, but probably the things that are gonna be the hardest are gonna be that. How we can open a constitution to the possibilities of different economical views. For us, it's just to open democracy to these possibilities, where socialism is one of them. So I think that the main, probably what is going to be the hardest thing to do is to get these conservative minorities and these political minorities that were the far right, the alt-right, into the Constitutional Assembly, not to resist so much to open the state to intervene in the economy, and probably to be able to change this model of development that we're having, that's been stuck since the 90s. So for me, that's the hardest part. We have, I told you that we have this neoliberal rationality along the institutions. That's something that neoliberalism has done perfectly. We have a very small time for campaign. It's going to be a month, approximately. Yeah, but we have in our schedule and our agenda, it's also based on citizen participation, popular participation. So we have all these mechanisms that now we're gonna use to also make people debate and communities just talk about the issues that they are worried about, and bring those documents to us in the constitutional process. We have, I think, probably those moments are gonna be able for us to just campaign, just explain to the people that this constitution, it's better, that this constitution is actually democratic, and so yeah. But it's hard now to do that because we're not voted yet. So we're just writing and discussing and debating, and since the February 14th, that's the date, we're gonna begin voting. So that's where you are gonna see how this new constitution is shaping, and it's becoming alive. So I think that's the moment when it gets very interesting. And that's the moment that probably, if you are very interested in our process, you should be very involved in what is going on. From February 14th until the March 15th, we're gonna be voting. So making all these big decisions about the future of our country. We're very aware that the world is watching us. We are very aware of that. That's a lot of responsibility. We've held some international meetings with another constituents, former constituents around the world. Especially for me, the experience of women constituents it's very, very important. I think solidarity is very important, and also to exchange these experiences that we have. And probably we are writing a little piece of history now. And maybe in 5 years or 10 years, we can just go back and see what we did well and what we did wrong, and hopefully that will be something that for you and for different movements and people and political parties around the world, that's going to be helpful to just learn from the experiences of others.
So hopefully the video helped you get a glimpse into the Constituent Assembly that is currently taking place. So now we're gonna go and welcome Taroa Suhinera Silva, journalist and organizer. Welcome, thank you for joining us. I know that you had some a few COVID scares in New York, so.
Yes, no, thank you. I think it's amazing that we can be together, and I think it's amazing that we can start to break all the distance that we have. We have to say thanks for that to the COVID time. You know, this Zoom is amazing that we can do this. Thanks.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much. So I'll go ahead and I'll start with the first question. So I wanted to discuss a bit about Gabriel Boric and his election. Like, you know, what did he promise? Like, why did people vote for him? And during his campaign, he declared that if Chile was the birthplace of neoliberalism, now it would be its grave. And so, yeah, what are like the bare minimum that Boric needs to do to remain true to such a statement? And what is like, perhaps, what is the minimum that should happen? And what is the best that can happen? Yeah, and so I'll just ask all of question number one. And then finally, what's kind of like the political landscape? Where does Boric fit in? How is the left, in particular the Communist Party, relating to Boric today? And what role does it see itself having during Boric's presidency? So.
Well, first, I want to say that you listen that make a very good chronology about the status of the protests in the street in Chile, no? So we have to know that Boric have this victory that is not only about the promise that he did in the campaign, or including, it's not only about what Boris represents, it's all in long story that have this victory, you know? It's the first time that this new generation of people that move all the people to the street to fight against the neoliberalism, to try to have public education, to try to change the system of health, have the age, imagine that. Boris is the first of that generation that now can be a candidate because he have 35 years old, you know? It's the first time that we have that opportunity. And this generation is the first generation that grow up without the dictatorship. You know, they go to the school in democracy, they go to the university in democracy, and that is the first time that happened in the last 30 years, no? So it's not only Boris by herself, it's all a generation that have for the first time the opportunity of enter in the institutional space of the state. No? I don't know if it's clear. You know, you can tell me that, you know, that my English is not the best, no? So what's happening here is that first that Boris have the support of a lot of people that want to have a new generation of political life in the state. They want to have new people there, not the same people that have all these 30 years talking about the past, talking about to try to have justice for the criminals that happen in the dictatorship, you know? It's like new people with new ideas, and that is the figure of Boris. But also, Boris is the only one of the candidates that can defend the process of the Convención Constitucional that we have. And that is the big victory of the people in this time. So the people is going to protect that. More that they believe that with a new president we can change the country, is that we have to protect the constitutional problem. Because that is real, the only opportunity that we have to change the condition of Chile. You know, you can't do, you ask me what Boris can know, what is the minimal that he has to change, and what is, to be sincerely, Boris can't do too many things, you know, because we have that floor. We can't change the rules if we don't change the constitution. Also, it's going to be really hard because we have this parliament now. Boris is going to have a government that have a parliament that the 50% of the parliament is people of the right, and the other 50 is people of the left. So it's going to be really hard to try to change something. So the principal process now in Chile is the constitutional, and Boris represents that. It's the opportunity of protect that, no? And also, Boris win because there is an important vote that go against Cast, that is the other candidate, you know? Cast is a man that represents the Pinochetism. It's a man that he say in his campaign that he's going to close the Minister of the Women. He's going to finish with the abortion law. He's an homophobic. He say he's going to make a big fight against the homophobia. So there is a lot of people that is scared of that and go to vote against Cat. Maybe not for Boris, but against Cat, you know. The most high percentage of votes that Boris have come from the young people and the women. And that is because in the program of Boris, that is also the program of the Communist Party, is including the gender issue that never happened before, you know? And that is because it's this new generation of political kind, you know, that changed, like Barbara said, no, like that changed the story of the political life in Chile, that changed the political offer that we have. No, in resume, we have like basically 3 reasons for Boris to win. One is that he supports the women, he supports the civil rights, no? He represents a new generation, he's a young man, It's a new political class, and he's going to defend the constitutional process. And that is the most important point for the people in Chile. No, we need that. It's our victory. We're going to protect that. No, I don't know how much. About the, well, you asked about the point where is Boric, no, in a political way. It's like, what is the possibility of participation, no, of the Communist Party there? Boric win like a part of a coalition that the name is Apruebo Dignidad. Apruebo Dignidad is the Frente Amplio, that is a coalition of parties of the new generation, el Partido Comunista, that is the traditional Partido Comunista, and a few more little parties of the left. So this coalition built that program. So the participation of the left in this government is going to be from there. You know, we have an agreement that he have to cumplir. How do you say cumplir in English? I don't know. He has a compromise
that he has to fulfill, that he has, that he's committed to.
Yeah. Exactly. So, well, from my point of view, Boric is a man of the center. It's not a left man, you know, it's not a radical man. It's a man of the center that also responds at something that Barbara said before, you know, it's a generation that grow up democracy, like I say. They grow up in a neoliberalist world, you know, they have that sense. And Boric don't go out of that. Boric is a man of the center, but he's going to build a government with the Partido Comunista, with another force that going to force this to go to the left, no? To go to more radical positions. What more?
I had a follow-up question. So Boric, like he, by a very small percentage, he lost the first round of elections. And then afterwards, he won the second round. And in the second round, there were about 1.2 million more people that voted, right? The voter turnout increased. So in some ways, that seems to imply that in the first round, there were people that were not voting, but in the second round that they were mobilized to vote. And I guess I was curious who these people were. Who were the people that kind of like, who were the people that didn't vote? Perhaps, I don't know if it would be correct to say that they were not necessarily moved to vote for Boric in the first round, but then in the second round they were. How would you characterize these people?
Well, there is an important vote, like I say, that is against Boric. And it's a lot of people that take conscience of what can happen in the second round. Because in the first round, yes, listen, the real struggle in Chile in the elections is against the, how do you say in English when the people don't go to vote? Abstention, no? Like, that is the historical issue in Chile. The people don't go because they don't believe in the state. So that's happening in the first round also. But after the first round, the people start to see that what is going to happen if Cas win, no? It's not only, first we're going to lose the constitutional process, and that is terrible. But also there is a lot of old people that live the time of the dictatorship, and they don't want to come back there, you know? That is, for example, in my family, I see that. Maybe I'm not like a Boris lover, you know? But when I see my grandma afraid, no, she say, well, my son was killed for the dictatorship. I can die if the people of Pinochet come back again. I say, no, oh my God, I have to go to vote, you know? I have to go. This is my grandma. It's their story, no? It's, you know, I think that happened to a lot of people, no? And also to a lot of women and to young people that start to see that they really going to lose the little things that we have, you know, we have a minister, we have a little law, we have the right of making abortion in certain conditions, you know, we're going to lose all that if Cas win. So the people start to move for that. The people start to move not for the passion of the new project, maybe, but more for be afraid of what can happen.
So we'll go to the second question. So Of course, Boric won with 56% of Chileans voting for him. He won by a very large margin, about 12%. But there was also a 44% that voted for the extreme right wing that is represented by CAS. And like, I imagine here, it could also be split into two parts, right? The people, the 28% that voted for CAS in the first round, and then an additional group of people that voted for CAS afterwards. Yeah, who was this 44%? And how would you tackle this divide in the country? It seems like people voted along two very extremes. And also, what does this reveal about Chile's relationship with the legacy of Pinochet, that somebody that is an admirer of Pinochet was able to nonetheless gather like quite a large number of votes?
Yes, that's horrible, no? First, I don't think that is two extremes, because Boric is not an extreme, you know, it's the center and the right. We have to remember, this is horrible also, that when the dictatorship end was in a democratic way with a votation where the 44% of the people vote for the continuity of the dictatorship. You know, it's the same number of people. So what we can think that this the same people that they still believe that that is the way, you know, the people that have they don't feel embarrassed of vote for Pinochet. They don't feel that that was something that is wrong, that is horrible, you know. And that comes because in Chile we have a long story of impunity against these military people that kill a lot of people, that torture a lot of people, and they be like, they have her normal life. They don't have a social condena. How do you say condena?
Stigma, condemnation.
Yes, they don't have a stigma, social stigma. So these people still believe that they have the correct answer. They go to vote for the same program. It's something that is a responsibility of the Chilean pueblo, you know. We don't make that work. We don't make the work of end with the impunity to make that people that is bad, you know, to continue with that legacy. So there is one vote that is like the traditional right people in Chile, ¿no? La derecha tradicional que todavía confía en el legado de Pinochet.
The traditional right that still believes in the legacy of Pinochet, sure.
And in the other side, we have a lot of people that is afraid of the communists. That is a big issue in the campaign against Boric, no? Is try to put Boric closer of the Partido Comunista and say that we are, you know, they build all this imagine about the communists durante la dictadura, and they continue with that campaign. It's the same. It's the same discourse that they have, and it's the same people that is afraid of a discourse that is about from the 80s, no, against the communists. It's the same that there is people that vote for Boric against CAS. There is a lot of people that vote for CAS against Boric because they think that Boric is communist, and also because they think in Chile, Venezuela is a big issue. And the campaign of terror against Boric also say, no, Chile is going to be like Venezuela if Boric wins. So the people go to vote against Venezuela also, you know. It's amazing that.
Great. Thank you very much. I think that definitely, I think there's a lot of similarities to Korea. It also went through a period of like some sort of like industrialization with like military, with the military dictatorship, and that legacy is still something that hangs, that a portion of Korean society still like clings to. So I think it's very interesting to see the similarities there. In the aftermath of the October 2019 protests, there has been a resurgence of like popular territorial assemblies that emerged spontaneously from below. Many of them seem to be a backlash against the established party, or perhaps you could correct me if I'm wrong. Could you briefly introduce these territorial assemblies? What has been their impact on the presidential election, the social movements, and the Constituent Assembly?
Well, first, the territorial assemblies are a spontaneous organizational response that are like making the people move around the territory, because basically it's like the neighbors want to be with the people that is closer of them, that can change the quotidianity life, The people want to build a new quotidianity, like when Barbara said before, that they have that traditional sense of the individuality. There is also a lot of conscience in the people that have to be deconstruido, I don't know, in the quotidian space. So the people start to go to talk with the people. Also, we have to remember that when all these mobilizations start, also the COVID start. So we can't really see too many people. So these assemblies is like little groups of 20 people that live in the same space and go to talk about the political life, go to dream with a new way to manage the government, to make the constitution, and start to make organizations to defend the constitution, to talk with the constitutional process. There is a lot of lecture about this, like the people is tired or don't want more to enter in the party's life, to have that sense of organization. But I think it's not true, because a lot of people of the party make part of these assemblies. We go, the Communist Party go to this assembly, we participate there. It's not about the sense of don't be part of a community like a party. It's more like the sense of being close of the territory, of will with the people that you have closer than you, that have the same ideas, the same problems, It's that construction that the people is looking for. I think that is also that don't start now, that start in the dictatorship and continue, But now take my force because it's recognized for the power, The people in the power start to say this people is here, we have to talk with these people, we have to listen to these people, that is a victory also of the last protest.
So just to summarize very briefly, it seems like what you're saying is that it's not true that there are like anti-political parties, because there are members from the Communist political party that are part of these sort of like community assemblies, territorial assemblies, and that a lot of these assemblies existed from much before, from the time of the dictatorship, but that perhaps now they're getting recognized as a legit, or perhaps not legitimate, but as a source of power and like a democratic organization. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yes, it's true. And also because the objective of this organization changed with the time. The dictatorship, the people go to the street to try to save their life. For example, this assembly in that time go around the food. The people go to the corner to make food, to give to the people, because they have a crisis. And now the people go to the corner to talk about the new constitution, But it's the same kind of organization, That is around a specific problem and a specific objective.
Great, thank you. Now we'll just go to the last question. I want to give plenty of time for, I think a lot of people are eager to ask questions. So in the Spanish article in Latin America, the political compass recently points towards the left. You and Vijay Prashad wrote how the left and progressives are overtaking countries that were victims to US-led coups. Most recently Honduras, Bolivia, Peru, and of course Chile. And Boric in his campaign criticized Venezuela's democracy. In your article, you mentioned the importance of Venezuela in Latin America's left turn in the 21st century. How do you think Boric's government will relate to Venezuela, to the rest of the left, and to progressive governments in Latin America? Yes.
Well, the relationship with Venezuela from Chile is really complex, because Chile is the country of America Latina that have the more high numbers of migrants from Venezuela, no? We receive a lot. There is not official numbers because that don't exist basically. But the people, the political people, the people that make political life in Chile can't know, they don't have the option or don't talk about Venezuela, you know? Venezuela is a big issue. So they have like, there is two sides of that position. There is la creencia. How do you say la creencia? The people, in general in America Latina, there is like the theory that if you
the belief, la creencia, the belief.
They believe that if you go, si tú estás cerca de Venezuela, no?
If you're close to Venezuela,
you're going to be bad answer for the people. Tú vas a tener malos resultados en las elecciones, ¿no? No hay nada que lo demuestre.
So I think what you're saying is that, like, if you're somehow affiliated with Venezuela, that politically it's like political suicide, that a lot of people will not vote for you.
Exactly. So these leaders take positions maybe in a irresponsible way, without all the information about the process, about the revolution, you know, and they only have to take position because they need to be in a safe place, no? Because you can't defend, it's really hard to defend the process in Venezuela when you live in Chile that have a lot of the right migrants of Venezuela saying, no, that is a dictatorship or all that, you know? We don't have a lot of people, because the people that like the process, I love the process of Venezuela. I'm a big defender of the process of Venezuela, and I live in Chile for other circumstances, no? But there is almost all the people that is out of Venezuela is against the process. So if you're going to government in a country where the migrant issue is a big issue, and all these migrants are against that government, it's really hard to defend that position, no? Also, I think that we don't have enough tools to know how is going to be the relationship of the government of Boric with Venezuela, because this declaration, this statement are individual, you know. Is Boric like the leader of her party, and like a candidate, and now he's going to be the president of a coalition, and that coalition have different postures about Venezuela. So I think we have to see what is going to happen with Venezuela also in the next year, you know. It's like, I think that is a complex process.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, we look forward to that kind of deeper understanding. After Boric's victory, the Chilean stock market dropped dramatically. What reactions or attacks should we expect from the Chilean Right Center and foreign capital, especially because there's that whole history of Salvador Allende and all the craziness that happened at that time? And yeah, how will the newly elected government defend or prepare itself for such attacks?
Well, there is something that I can say about that is like, I think, well, first, I think that this is true that the stock market fell after the Boric victory, but also it's true that there is a crisis, a global crisis, you know, after COVID. Boric have to assume this moment, no, it's going to be a crisis and can be gas, and we're going to have the same problems, no? I think that the business class in Chile have to decide what they're going to do, because Boric in this moment don't represent any risk for these people, you know. We are not talking about the nationalization of the empresas, you know. He's not talking about that radical moment.
The national, you're talking about the nationalization of perhaps like the mining companies and the such?
Yes, that is like one of the, that have to come with the constitutional process, but it's not a part of the program. The real risk for the rich people, no, in this moment in Chile is have a relationship with the Constituyente, not with Boric. So we have to see. Also, I have to say there that you know, when the revolution started in Venezuela, we don't believe that it's possible that we're going to have, for example, the sanctions, no, or the bloqueo. When Chavez talked about that, I remember that when Chavez win, no, I have like 15 years, and that was like, why Chavez is talking about this? You know, that the imperium is going to come. That is not of this time. I think that in Chile, again, we have that position. You know, it's like that new generation that is wonderful, and well, we're going to have a new president and all that. Don't believe that that is possible. You know. So they think that that only can happen 30 years ago. And the people that lived our process, the last coup in America Latina, we know that can happen. But we are not talking about that. No, it's not look like a possibility now. I think that is going to be also an interesting thing to see if it's real that it's not going to happen now, or what is going to do the clase dominante, no, against it.
The dominant classes. Sure. Yeah, so I think just to summarize briefly, I think you were saying that a lot of the young people and the younger generations, they don't believe that such a thing can happen to Chile, that perhaps is a thing that happened in the past and is not likely to recur, but that we still have to see. I guess before we go on to the Q&A, before I pass it on to Greg, I just wanted to ask, like, yeah, what can people around the world do to stand with the people of Chile? Like, yeah, what is, I mean, we are very far away, but I think a lot of people, especially in the left and around the world, they're excited about the possibility of alternatives to neoliberalism arising in Latin America, and Chile being one such possibility. And yeah, like what are things that people can do to ensure that this process continues well?
I think that the most important thing is to defend and accompany the constitution process, you know, that is for sure. That is the most important thing that we have now and what we need. But on the other hand, I believe, and this is like a personal perception, that we need the people, the left in the world, tiene que ser paciente. You have to be very patient, no?
Patient, more patient.
Patient with the Chilean process, because it's a process that is already being criticized for the left, because they say it's not enough radical, you know, that Boric is on the center, and it's true. I agree with that, no? But that is the process that we can have in this moment, no? It's the process that Chile can have. It's the president that can win. Our candidate that come from the Communist Party don't win, you know? That is the left that we have in Chile. And that is the process that we can have. And that process is going to open the door to have a more radical future, you know, to have a real change in our country. So we need the people with passion and be with us, because you have to be closer of us now, no? To be more closer of us when this really comes in a revolution, in a big change, you know? This is a moment to try also to try to make an intercambio of experience, you know?
Exchanges of experiences.
Yes, because the process that we live in another countries, the process that you have, the process that we have in Venezuela, in Cuba, you know, is going to help to put this more to the left. So I think that is the opportunity of try to enter there, no? Try to make this kind of things, not only about our experience, about your experience and your expectative, because we have to push this to the left.
Yes, definitely. We appreciate like the opportunity to have this exchange with you, and you know, we're very excited about the Constituent Assembly process. And of course, I think like Barbara mentioned some important dates: February 15 to March 14, when a lot of the voting is going to happen. And then of course, there's going to be the vote of the constitutional draft, either in April or perhaps in July if there's a 3-month extension. So yeah, we're definitely our eyes are on Chile, and in a good way. very much appreciating the
But
role
also
that
the
Chile
health.
is doing. Yeah, I'm gonna just now pass it on to Greg, and we're gonna open up with Q&A. It looks like there's quite a lot of questions already lined up. So, Greg, please go ahead.
All right, we will now begin the Q&A section. First was questions people have written in advance, then later questions written in the Zoom chat. Actually, funny enough, I'll start with my question. I was surprised to learn that some of the parties in the leftist electoral coalitions espouse libertarian socialism, and some articles say that Boric originally came out of this tendency. I'm curious how popular libertarian socialist ideology is in Chile, and how influential libertarian socialist groups are going to be in a new government and constitutional convention.
If I understand well.
Hola, perdón, fui al baño por un segundito, pero ¿cuál era la pregunta?
Again, for third time.
Perdón, de vuelta, por favor.
No de mí, es que le estoy preguntando si estoy puntualizando para ver si entendí bien la pregunta del compañero, de Greg.
Sí, la pregunta tiene que tener con ¿cómo se dice? La tendencia tal vez de Boric, que parece que él había leído que era parte de socialismo libertarian.
Yes, that is a little part of the, listen, Boric is part of the Frente Amplio. The Frente Amplio was a coalition of parties of the left that have like the more left side that is almost anarchist, no? There is socialismo libertario, there are little parties in that coalition that is the Frente Amplio. This is the coalition of Boric. Now the Frente Amplio take a part of the big coalition that is Apruebo Dignidad. In Apruebo Dignidad is Frente Amplio, that is a coalition of, in this you have the Frente Amplio that have a lot of parties, of little parties there, and Partido Comunista, el Partido Ecologista Verde, big parties, So it's really little, this section, because it's a part of the party of Boric, It's not going to have too many, no tanto como querríamos. It's not too many that we want.
¿Cuál era la última parte? Not too many what?
No, que no va a tener tanto peso como lo que nosotros quisiéramos.
That it doesn't have as much weight as we would like it to. So it seems like they're a much smaller section of the larger Frente Amplio that is the party of Boric.
It's a coalition. Frente Amplio is a coalition of parties, so it's really a little part.
It's a small part, okay.
Yes.
Let's see. The next question will be from Keith Woodgard.
Thank you for speaking quickly. Assuming a new constitution can be passed, what policies do you think the Boric administration is going to prioritize for achieving after that? Are they going to prioritize economic justice, gender equality, environmental issues, education? Because you can't do it all, and they're going to have to choose something. And then also, do you think that priority will be effective? Because just to finish real quick, like a lot of the center, they get elected based on what they're going to do, and then they don't do it, and then people turn back to the right, and it's this back, like you don't do enough. So what policies do you think they'll prioritize, and will it be effective, that strategy? And I went over, sorry.
Well, the first part is heavy, because you know that the first 2 years of the government, we have 5 years of government, and the two first years you have to work with the bullet of the last government. So it's really, you can't do too many things, with that condition, because where are you going to move the money? You can move a little, the budget, but not too much. So I think that what Boric have to do, first, there is something that you have to know, that there is the possibility that we have a new presidential election after that we finish the process of the constitution. That's happening in Venezuela. That depends of the, of the modificaciones that you make in the function of the Senado.
The modifications that you make to the functions of the Senate or the responsibilities or abilities of the Senate, right?
Well, maybe we have a new process of election of presidential elections in 2 years. We don't know. That depends on what's happening at the end of the constitution. But these first 2 years of government of Boric, I think he have to take the demandas that the people make in the street protest, you know? Demandas, how do you say demandas?
The demands.
Yes, the demandas of the people in the street, that is basically to guarantee the end of the AFP is the model of the pension, el modelo de pensiones, que es privatizado.
Around like the pensions that are privatized.
That is
Right.
one of the more strong demand of the people. So
Okay.
Boris have to move in that, no? It's like in la restitución de los derechos civiles y de como el cerrar la brecha económica. Sí,
¿Cerrar
hace-
la qué?
cerrar la brecha entre clases.
Ah, sí. Like bridge the economic inequality gap.
Mira, no sé si hay otra pregunta. Yo diría, o sea, creo que hay otra pregunta, pero terminaría como de acotar a este compañero, que yo creo que lo más importante de lo que Boris puede hacer es como restituir la noción de que puede ser diferente.
Okay.
¿sabes?
So
Más
just
allá de
to-
su modificación.
So just to kind of respond, like I think the thing that Boric could do, the best thing that he could do is to offer the hope that things can change. Is that correct? Taroa? Yeah.
Yes, because he can do too many things, I say to you, in 2 years with the bullet of the old government, with the 50% of the parliament against this modification, no? But the people start to believe that can change, that we can take the power. And that is the most important thing that he has to do.
All right, the next question is from Lee Jae-hyun. Would Lee Jae-hyun like to state their question?
칠레에서 사실 기존의 항쟁 기간 동안에 산티아고나 이제 전국의 도시들에서 좀 시위를 주도했던 그런 세력들 같은 경우에는 뭐 좌파 정당이라도 어떤 기성 정당도 있지만은 어떤 대학의 학생운동 조직이나 좀 지역의 그런 무당파적인 정치 조직도 상당히 많았다라고 생각이 되고 2019년 당시에 이제 여러 기성 정당들이 피네라 대통령의 합의안에 대해서 일정하게 동의하고 여러 가지 선거 전국으로 넘어가게 되면서 일정하게 좀 배신을 당했다라고 느끼는 그런 단체들도 있다고 듣고 있어서 그만큼 어떤 기성 정당과 기층 뿔뿔이 어떤 조직 간에 반발이나 갈등도 있을 수가 있다고 생각이 되는데 앞으로 보리치 정부가 이제 기존의 좌파적인 기획을 완성을 하기 위해서는 이런 기층 조직들과의 연계나 연대가 필수적일 수 있다고 생각이 되는데 혹시 이제 그런 기층 조직들과 기성 정당 또는 이제 뭐 정부 간의 연계나 연대를 복원할 수 있는 그런 전략이나 담론 같은 게 칠레 내에서는 어떤 게 있는지 궁금해서 질문드립니다.
Me vas a tener que ayudar con esto para explicarlo. Porque primero está como la idea de que en el estallido social participan solamente movimientos que no forman parte de partidos, ¿no? Eso ya está aclarado, que realmente hay un porcentaje importante que hace parte de partidos políticos. Y luego hay otra parte que es justamente como el gran reto, que es un sector de la población que va a votar, que va a protestar, pero que no se moviliza ni siquiera para votar. Si quieres vamos avanzando y luego sigo, ¿no?
Sí. So just I think first there's this idea that there's the social movement and that it's like something that is separate from the political party. But it's important to know that the political party is also like a small part of these social movements are also involved in political parties. And there is, of course, a larger network of people that come out to the protests, but they don't actually vote.
Ajá. Y esta gente va a empezar a incorporarse al gobierno o a hacer alianzas en la medida en que el gobierno logre cumplir ciertas expectativas.
And these people, of course, are gonna expect that the government will fulfill certain of their demands.
Que la
Taroa, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's okay. And the first one is that they asking for take out of the jail to the people that go to the jail for the protest, you know? And that Boris is making a lot of pressure in this moment because he needs the permission of the Congress for that. And we don't going to have that permission in 3 months because that I said too many times, no, we have the parliament with the right and the left. So that is the first step, no? If Boris take these people out of the jail, that is going to close that gap that we have, you know? Like that is the first step. Yo creo que lo siguiente es que la gente que participa en el estallido social está esperando acciones concretas y que la estrategia de acercamiento es eso, ¿no? Acciones concretas, medidas concretas a las demandas que están haciendo. Que la principal es la de las pensiones y la salud, ¿no?
Okay, so the people that took to the streets that are perhaps not incorporated into the parties, they want the Boric government to undertake concrete actions and measures around their demands, around like the pension and the healthcare system.
Y la reforma de la policía.
And the reform of the police.
That is the more big issue. Entonces, creo que está claro, ¿no? O sea, es como la estrategia es cumplir con las demandas.
Sure, and of course, then it should be clear that the strategy of the Boric government should be to actually comply with these demands.
Right. The next question is from Shin Hyun-ja.
네, 질문은 인민연합 아옌데 정권이랑 좌파연합의 보리치 정권과 같은 점과 다른 점은 무엇입니까?
Sí, bueno, a ver, creo que básicamente, o sea, es mucho, ¿no? Y es mucho que se explica desde el contexto en el que se propone el proyecto de la Unidad Popular, que es el proyecto de Allende, viene como aliado a una serie de gobiernos revolucionarios en la región. Si quieres avanzas un poco hacia ahí.
Entonces está diciendo que hay muchas semejanzas en el contexto.
Yo creo que como las principales diferencias entre el gobierno de Allende y Boris son dadas por el contexto, ¿no?
Okay, so the primary differences between Allende's government and that of Boric is the context.
Porque el gobierno de Allende tenía la posibilidad de avanzar en una clase trabajadora que creía que el cambio era posible y que lo creía por el ejemplo, ¿no?
So, so Allende's political context was that he lived in a time where there was a working class that believed that social change was possible.
And was possible because they lived the context of a lot of revolution in our region, no? And that makes that the proposal of the Unidad Popular, that is the political proposal of Allende, be more radical, no? They go directly to change the material conditions of life of the people, no? And the purpose of Boris have to walk al ritmo de la capacidad de un pueblo chileno que creció en neoliberalismo, ¿no?
So the difference is that while Allende was his political context was far more radical and much more hopeful in the notions of like working class strength. Today, Boric his context is very much more neoliberalist.
Entonces, en realidad creo que es muy difícil hacer una comparación. Es un contexto demasiado diferente como para poder hacer una similitud y una diferencia, ¿no? Un poco imposible.
So to compare both is very difficult. It's almost impossible because their contexts are so widely different.
Tal vez la gran similitud que podemos encontrar es que Allende sigue siendo un ejemplo, ¿no? sigue siendo un ejemplo y que todo el proyecto de Boric también se basa en recuperar la memoria de lo que fue ese sueño, ¿no?
So perhaps if there is a similarity is that the Allende government keeps being an example for the Boric, for Boric to be inspired and to try to recover as well.
Allende no tenía que destruir un experimento neoliberal y Boric tiene que hacerlo.
So Allende didn't have to destroy a neoliberal project, and Boric has to.
Completely different, you know?
Next question is from Danny.
Living in America, where there isn't much popular desire for far left politics, I was wondering what sort of lessons leftists outside of Chile should take from Boric's victory and the communist and left organizing within Chile.
Something that I still have to think about that, you know, because I take part of a left that is more radical. And for me, for example, what I see with this victory of Boric is that maybe we have to learn how to walk at the rhythm of the people, you know? It's like, it's not about our desire. It's about what is in general the people want and what in general the people can do. We have some, and I think that Boric have that really clear. It's incredible how he can listen to people and translate that in something that the people believe that is possible, you know? We maybe the left sometimes, I repeat, I'm still thinking in that, no? Maybe we always talk in a way, I want to say talk, what is, we build our political proposals, ¿cómo tú dices? Propuestas políticas.
Our political proposals.
Yes, more thinking less in the people and more in our theory, no? More in our dreams, no? And what we have to learn about this victory is that this new generation built something that the people can believe and can trust. That is not the experience, because the people don't say, oh no, he knows how to do, no, because he has 35 years, you know? But the people believe that fuerza, that I don't know how to say that.
That force.
Yes, make the things possible. We have to think about that, you know? You have, I think it's really important, this victory for the left in the world, because, you know, he make the news in Instagram, he used the social media another way, he talked with the jump, with the children, you know, it's a new model of the left. We have a lot we have to see that, you know, and think with respect. I think that is, and paciencia, no? I don't know.
Patience.
Yes, patience. I always say passion, but it's also we need passion there.
Thank you, Taroa. Would you have any closing remarks you would like to share?
No, I want to say that, mira, yo creo que es muy importante que intentemos hacer estos esfuerzos, lo que te decía, ¿no? De romper las barreras de lenguaje y las barreras territoriales que tenemos, ¿no?
So these efforts are very important to break these language and distance barriers.
No, creo que tenemos que intentarlo y construirlo entre todos.
That we need to construct it together, that we need to attempt.
Sí, porque es la única manera de que realmente como logremos construir un conocimiento colectivo, ¿no? Y un conocimiento desde diferentes latitudes de lo que viene a ser realmente el sur global. Entonces agradecerles como por abrir este espacio y bueno, espero que la próxima vez sean ustedes los que vengan a conversar sobre su experiencia con nosotros.
So I just wanted to, all these exchanges are the only ways that we could create more collective knowledge. And hopefully next time, well, thank you for opening this space for me. And hopefully next time you guys could be the ones that we invite to be in conversation.